about, say, performing better, we're focused on getting closer to their customer. Well, duh, right? I mean, you're not focused on driving your customers away from you. No one's going to be more successful with that strategy. This is the statistic that I find more interesting. 57% of those standout organizations were letting their users use social and collaborative tools. How many of you have had the conversation already with either your legal folks or human resources or maybe your CFO about using social media? Were you embraced with open arms? Yes, that's great. You should start tweeting and putting all this information out into wikis, and probably not, right? The way that you get over that resistance to social as a concept is showing the business results that companies in your industry are achieving using these tools. Right? What have they actually measured in terms of results? And I want to give you, at the end of the presentation, some ideas that you can use talking to different parts of your company, whether it's product development or sales and marketing, customer service. What are the metrics that you want to go after to say, this is how social business can improve our business? Because that's the ultimate goal. So we think in analyzing all this work that's been done by the Institute for Business Value, surveying organizations that are succeeding, there are three characteristics that distinguish a social business. What makes a business social and makes them one of those standouts? They're more engaged, they're more transparent, and they're more nimble than their peers in the way they're using technology. I'll give you examples of all three of those. Something to keep in mind as I do, though, is that a social business strategy, I crossed out can and put it should, impact all of these groups of people and more. It's not something that's just focused on the way you connect with employees. It may be including people who don't get work for you yet. You may be recruiting them through LinkedIn, right? So as recruits is another constituency of people who should be part of your social business strategy. I'm glad to see employees at the top of the list, though, because Web 1.0 focused mainly on customers. Turns out the customers are important. Obviously, we need customers and we need revenue, but employees are solving the innovation challenges that are going to make the business get to the next level. So how do we give them tools that a lot of the time they're already using, whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter? How do we bring those capabilities inside the enterprise and do things that are only appropriate to do inside the enterprise? Customers, not to be forgotten, who are leading the conversation about your brand. If your web folks, your search engine optimization people are doing their jobs, the first hit when you Google your company name will be your corporate website. It should be at the top of the list. But you won't have to get down very far into the list before you start finding information that was generated by your customers. They're putting reviews out into public sites, things like Angie's List or Yelp, saying this is what I think about this product, this is what I think about this service offering. So you have to consider the impact and the influence that they're having on your brand and your perception in the marketplace. The third one is especially interesting to me is how social business helps us to compete more effectively. When I joined IBM 5 years ago, I came into what was called the competitive SWAT team. And getting competitive intelligence was one of the hardest things that we did. We would hope that somebody from Microsoft left behind a PowerPoint presentation in a conference room and we could kind of sneak it out of the building, or someone would accidentally email something to somebody else. We don't have to do any of that anymore. It's all out on the public web. The product managers have to blog about their product roadmaps. Sometimes they microblog or tweet about where they're going to appear or what customers they're going to go visit. So getting competitive intelligence adds a whole new dimension when you factor in social as a strategy. Let's talk about engagement. How do we really connect with people more effectively, whether they're an employee, whether they're a partner, whether they're a supplier, whether they're even someone who we're trying to recruit to the organization. We have been, now that Lotus has acquired IBM 16 years ago, wait a minute, I want to say that backwards, sorry. That IBM acquired Lotus 16 years ago, you're seeing a lot more cross-pollination of the software stack. The things that we are driving into the collaboration products are being borrowed from Cognos, for example, who does a lot of analytics in analyzing information that they used to have in databases and transactional systems. We're going to apply those analytics to collaboration. Not just to tell me the thing that happened most recently, but maybe the thing that's most important. In content management, we're borrowing technology from FileNet. How do we effectively help people manage documents, the workflows associated with them, the sharing, the ACLs and security. So by engaging more of the software stack, we can provide more comprehensive solutions. I'll give you a couple of examples. Customer facing, right? We were talking about how social affects customers. There are a couple of the customer portals that we've developed by taking the technologies of Cognos and Filenet, we'll pay them back someday for those, and integrating them into customer websites. One of my family's favorite, the Cheesecake Factory. One of my daughter's favorites during back-to-school shopping, North Face. You know, these are not just brochureware sites. They're saying, here's my product, here's the sizes and colors it comes in, here's the price of it, but creating a space for a conversation to take place. Because that information about what customers think about your product, reviews, experiences, we use the term sentiment analysis, what people think about us in the web space, that's going to occur somewhere. And as a business, you want to create a place for that conversation to occur. You can't and shouldn't try to control it, frankly. But you want to create the place for it to occur so you can analyze the results. I have a brother-in-law who's involved in customer website design. Anyone care to guess what the #1 requested feature is in a business-to-consumer or B2C website today? Most requested feature.
Feedback?
Search, no.
Chat.
Chat, no. Blogging, no. I might have heard it somewhere. It's customer reviews. That's the #1 requested feature is give my customers a place to make recommendations and to tell each other what they think about my product or service. Because I'm never going to tell you anything but IBM software is the greatest, right? And that carries a certain amount of credibility. But if you tell each other that here in this room or in an online community, I can't buy the amount of marketing value and goodwill that creates. And we're trying to bring that context of customers talking to each other into the experience of browsing a B2C website. I'm going to make a couple references to our own experiences of adopting social technology inside of IBM. As I said, this is probably a 5 to 7 year journey for us. A lot of the products that you're starting to see and use today, like Connections and Same Time and Quicker, started out as internal-only parts of our intranet, of W3. People to information was kind of where we were, I'd say, 3 to 5 years ago. I found it interesting that David said the #1 capability of that's used in LinkedIn is people search, 2 billion searches or so that you're seeing. That's also true of our intranet. That was one of the aha moments for us. The people would go to our internal intranet W3, and all they did was search. They searched for individuals not just by name, but by manager, by experience, by geographic location, by customers that they'd worked with. So then we started to connect people to ideas. How did we generate new product concepts or bring things to market as a team? Some of you may have participated in our innovation jams. Anyone participate in a jam? Which is an idea generation. The term now is ideation. I hate that. That's not really a word, but idea generation as a team, where we vet ideas, vote on them, prioritize them, and those are things that ultimately became products or become service offerings inside of the collaboration offerings of IBM. And then letting those people connect to each other in groups, people to people. So how have we established this? Well, one of the first things that we did is we created a set of social computing guidelines. And I would encourage that as you work inside your organizations to adopt social business or you work with customers to tell them how to adopt it. I was kind of prepared when I joined IBM 5 years ago for a lot of Big Brother and total lockdown. I was like, I will never be allowed to install software on my laptop again. I won't be able to go to the Yahoo page and look at my sports scores. Totally not the case. We've solved a lot of the compliance and risk management issues around social computing with a document that I sign every year that says, I will follow the business conduct guidelines of IBM. I will respect customer and internal confidentialities. If I don't, I can be fired. Other than that, we don't solve it with technology. No one comes to my desktop and locks down every piece of software that I can possibly install. In fact, I'm one of the 5,000 or 6,000 IBMers that carries a MacBook, which kind of freaks people out. So social computing guidelines is a terrific first step. The internal jams showed the value to our senior executives of people working together and coming up with ideas we took to market. So look at the ideas we harvested from our employees, from our customers, from our business partners to bring something into the market that we ultimately sell. We launched a program to drive an integration of, called MWLUG, which is influencing, educating people about the capabilities of social media, how to use a microblog, how to use a wiki, how to use a team workspace. And then I knew we had crossed the tipping point when our own Lotus Connections came full circle and is now available in the front and center pane of our W3 intranet. I'll show you an example of that in a second. By the numbers, 100% of the 444,000 IBM employees have a profile set up in Connections. We get 1 million searches a week against that. We have 20,000 communities. Almost every one of those 400,000+ employees is a member of one of them, at least. Almost 300,000. We have 147,000 activities, which has become the new standard for how we work on a project together as a team. It used to be, I'll send you an email with some attachments, and then you can edit them and send them back to me. We're now doing those things in activities. 12 million instant messages every day that have completely killed voicemail. I mean, most of us at IBM have no idea how to access our voicemail anymore, so don't leave us one. Instant messaging has completely supplanted that. 1 million daily page views of content stored in wikis. I'll give you a very relevant example of a heavy wiki user project in a second. 17,000 internal blogs in 75 countries and 11 million downloads from our media library. Almost everything that we do internally is via webcast, e-meeting. We capture a lot of video. Everything is captured in audio. Those things are available for replay because my teams in China and India and Japan can't necessarily join a call at 10 o'clock Eastern time. It may be the middle of the night for them. How many of you saw Watson beat the humans on Jeopardy? It was kind of cool, but also a little bit scary. A lot of references to Skynet out there in the Twitterverse that maybe Skynet was here. Watson was a great example of how we use social technology and collaborate as a team. I should have done this as a build. I'm glad I didn't, though, since I decided to use David's laptop at the last second. Would any of you have guessed the team that built Watson, the core team, was 20 to 25 people? My guess was about 10 times that. I was on the phone with program manager Dave Scheffler of the Watson team 2 weeks ago. And I said, you guys must have a huge amount of data, a huge amount of people working on this. He said, actually, the average size of the team was 20, 25 people. I like this because people are a little bit skeptical when I use IBM as an example of a social business success. They say, we're not like you. There's 400,000 of you, and you guys are all high technology people. It's like, yes, there are 400,000 of us, but we tend to work in groups like this, of 20 to 25 people at a time, a small department, a small team, collaborating, solving an individual problem. This team interacted with a lot of parts of the organization. Can't do anything inside of IBM without interacting with legal, so they had to do that. Marketing, because a big reason we invested in Watson in the first place was to market it as a huge success of what we've done. Not just internally, but externally. This was something we did advertising around. If any of you saw the video on the Watson site, the cool avatar of Watson's confidence level, that was done by an external contractor. An artist created that visualization of what Watson was thinking about. So it was another place where we interacted outside of the organization. And we also had to vet trial opponents. Watson didn't go on stage for the first time against the humans when you saw him with Alex Trebek. We actually had a lot of people we hired to come in and test his ability to play the game. So the tools that the Watson team used were wikis, very, very heavily, for collaborating on code and concepts. Even though this group was relatively small, everything had to be captured and stored and tested, and used wikis very heavily for that. Web meetings, sharing across geographic boundaries, especially with those external organizations. And then team rooms to manage the content and the process more formally. You remember team rooms, the days before Quicker and Connections. Remember, Watson's a 3-year effort. So this started with, the days of Domino team rooms and evolved through Quicker and Connections. Some of the lessons that they learned, and these are things that you can apply, champions drive adoption. When the thought leaders, the key folks on the team, the Dave Farinacci's, who were designing Watson, said, we're going to use this technology, others followed. They said, I'll start to put content into the wiki. I won't, write an email snippet and send it to someone late at night. That's a consistent success factor across every one of the successful social business stories we've talked about, is the leaders drive adoption.